When I was at Crippled Children's, one of the things, you'd have all these people in your dorm. At one point, my one dorm room had 14 uh, people in it, and of course, including myself. And you form some kind of bonds and friendships that maybe are pretty deep. Some of them I remember. And one of the things you have to realize is going to Crippled Children's that you tended to think of people as, in some ways, related to whatever had caused them to be there. So in my case, it was polio. So anybody that knew me there knew that I had polio. And so one of my good friends, Mark Folk from Millbank, had muscular dystrophy, which, is really kind of a pretty nasty thing. Mark was one of the most intelligent people I ever knew. Super smart. He was one of them guys that could play uh, multiple games of chess at the same time and just really had great concentration and was super smart. And whenever I needed help with schoolwork or anything, he is who I turned to. And he used to humor me by letting me almost keep up with him in games. We would play endless games of Monopoly or another one called Conflict, where you had these little pieces that were cannons and infantry and all kinds of stuff. And we changed the rules a little bit so that the game could go on basically forever, and we would just play and do it, and for a long time. And is one of those things. And one thing one game we played was Stratego, and which is still around. And I was able to keep up with him and occasionally won. And it was kind of funny. A few years later, my brother Mike always would bring in. I was actually pretty good at games, always have been. Partly very lucky, and another I'm very trivial. I have all kinds of trivial knowledge in my head. And anyway, Mike would always bring home a game, and he was going to beat me at it, and he never did. And one of the ones he brought home, I remember Stratego, and he said, "Well, I got a game that I can beat you in now." And I looked at it and I just laughed, and and then it ended up pounding him into the ground because Mark Folk was much, much smarter than me, and I won't say whether Mike, my brother, was, whether I was smarter than him or, that's certainly up for debate. But the bottom line is, if I could hold my own with Mark Folk, I could certainly beat Mike easily, and I did. Other friends, Randy Poole, I remember him, a couple years older than me, so weren't exactly always in the same circle, but he was a bit like me in that he also wasn't really afraid to embrace his inner child. He liked swimming, which I also did, and I always remember him when we would order the greasy pizzas from Shakey's Chicken I'm sorry, Chicken Delight, not Shakey's, Chicken Delight in Sioux Falls, and we would pool our money together with everybody and maybe get one or two pieces. But it was a fun thing to do. And of course, the raiding the kitchen that we did and some things like that. Another was Tony Pepe, Native American from Mobridge, South Dakota, and he'd gotten shot in the back by his little brother when they were out target shooting and stuff. And is one of those things. And Tony and I got into a fair amount of trouble together. He was a bit different. I read all the time, but I mostly read books and the dime novels and history books and just all kinds of different things. Tony read comic books. Every comic book he could lay his hands on, he read. He had stacks and stacks of comic books, and that was really his thing. Another was Elvis Tail, also Native American. He was from Porcupine, South Dakota, down on the Pine Ridge area. And he and I got in quite a bit of trouble together quite often. We got caught smoking together. The two times I got caught smoking was with Elvis, and it was kind of interesting. The first time was just an obvious stupid thing. We were out back of the gymnasium in a little area that we went to, and one of the orderlies just happened to walk by and caught us, and there was no getting out of that one because we were right there, and there was nothing to do with them, and there you were. But the other time, we were still on uh, uh, being disciplined for the first time, and what that amounted to was that after supper, after a certain time or whatever, we were supposed to lay on our beds and, whatever, and we couldn't go all the way to the different parts of the school and stuff. They had to know where we were and some things like that. Well, right after supper, we went down to the boys' bathroom down by the school area, which was in the shady area between where you were supposed to be, where you could be, and where you couldn't be. It's kind of in a gray area there. And we were, Elvis and I were in there and we were smoking, and we heard someone coming. And we quickly flushed our cigarettes, and we're sitting there. Well, the person came in was the janitor, and he didn't really care one way or the other. In fact, he's probably where we bought our cigarettes from. He'd sell them to us for 5 cents a piece. And so we were all getting ready, and then the door opens again, and one of the orderlies comes in, and he was, they were still smoke in the air. And he said, "Were you guys smoking in here?" And we're like, "No, of course not. What are you kidding? We're in trouble for it already. We wouldn't be doing a thing like that." And so he's like, "Well, okay, whatever." Well, then a little while, so we went, and he said, "Well, you better get back to your room. You guys are due to be, laying on your beds now." So we went back, and we in our room, and our beds were right next to each other. And he came in after a while, and he goes, "I know you guys were smoking down there." We're like, "No, no, really. The janitor had just been in, and he was smoking when he was in," which at that time that happened, and there weren't any no smoking areas or anything like that, just wherever. And for staff, and not for us, we were supposed to smoke at all. But and so he kept going at us, and he kept coming back and saying, "Now, it really bothers me that you're lying to me, and I know that you were, and I just really think you should come clean on this." Like, no, we didn't really. Seriously, we weren't. And he kept after us, and said, "I'm not going to get you in trouble if you'll just be on. I really want you to just be honest with me. If you will just come clean, tell me the truth, then I won't do anything about it." And after a couple hours of that, we finally were like, "Fine. Yes, we were." He goes, "Okay, well, I'm glad that you were just honest with me." And he left, whatever. So we're just sitting there. 5 minutes later, he comes back with the nurse, and she read us the riot act, and really kind of just really, that we were in trouble and that we would have to talk to the assistant director who was in charge of discipline at the time. And so we're like, fine, this was Friday night, so that would happen Monday. So in between there, we were just on our regular bed, whatever we had been. And well, Monday comes around, and the assistant director wasn't around, but Dr. Morrison, who was the director of the school, was around, and he used to do discipline. And they said, "Well, the BP isn't here right now, but Dr. Morrison would like to talk to you." And so we went in and we talked to Dr. Morrison, and we actually had a really good talk. We laid out for him exactly what had happened, and said, we didn't think it was really fair that we were in trouble because we had come clean on it, and the orderly had been telling us, that he wasn't going to get us in trouble, and that he wasn't going to tell, and he wasn't going to do this. And then he went ahead and did anyway, and he basically was lying to us. And we said, and Dr. Morrison was really a insightful person, and he sat there and he talked to us, and just explained things, and he talked about smoking and things like that, but just really in a kind of one-on-one equal basis, and not lecturing us really, just talking. And he said, I think I'm going to talk to the vice president when he gets back and tell him that I believe that, you guys we should let you go pretty light this time, because it really was kind of one of those circumstantial things that happens. And I want you to to really, really strongly think that just, maybe smoking isn't something that you should do. And Elvis and I talked about it quite a bit after that, and decided that, what, we were both going to quit. And we didn't try to smoke or anything for most of the rest of that week. Well, finally the VP came back. We were called into his office, and we went in, and, and he's, went through his thing, and he said, did Dr. Morrison talk to you? And he said, yes, he talked to me, and I completely disagree with what he said. He said, and I'm in charge of discipline right now, so I'm the one who gets to decide what happens. And what he decided to do was have me write a letter home to my folks saying that I had gotten caught smoking and what a bad person I was for smoking and things like that. And then I was supposed to write this letter and have it ready for him Monday morning, and that he would bring it in, and he would then send it. But he said, Elvis, you don't have to do anything because you're Native American. I'm sure your folks could care less what you do. And I really thought at the time, what a racist remark to make, and what a jerk. And frankly, both Elvis and I left there determined to keep smoking, not get caught again. And the sad thing about that is I smoked for probably at least 10 years after that, simply because of what that person had said. I am confident that had he not treated us that way, that I would have not smoked again after that. And I can say that fairly easily, because when I decided to quit, I quit once and have not smoked since then. And that was some 35 years ago. So I really believe that. And it's sad to me, that happened that way, and that turned out that the assistant director at the time there was apparently somewhat racist. And that is really something that has stuck with me. I had a number of other friends there and stuff, and I've talked before about them in these little talks and stuff, and it really, I won't say that I've kept in good touch with them, but I do think about all these people that were good friends of mine, and the bonding that we had at, Crippled Children's really, there was really kind of a unique thing for somebody that's disabled to be able to be part of something where you really are part of a real, true peer group.